What's up, guys? This is Teddy. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create data in ASP.NET Web API with Entity Framework. So we've already gotten through all of our read requests, and if you want to, and you're coming in from another channel and you just kind of want to learn how to do a create, I've got the repo at a commit at this exact point, so you can just quickly clone this data and set up your own database if that's kind of your thing. But with create request, it's going to be a lot different from read request in Entity Framework, and I'm going to show you the key differences and kind of how to think about it. And I'm going to show you some things that I wish somebody would have told me about Entity Framework before I started, and it would have saved me a lot of heartache and pain, because in Entity Framework, so much can be abstracted away that a lot of times you don't know what's going on. So I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive. Not going to go too deep. Not going to show you things that you don't really know. Show you just exactly what you need to know and how to kind of think about create requests, because they are a lot different from read requests. So first things first, as always, we're going to go into our iCategory repository, and we are going to create our signatures. Let me move my microphone here. We're going to create our signatures for our app, and it's going to be very simple. We're just going to go create category, and we're just going to pass in the whole entire entity, just like that. One key difference from the other ones. The other ones, you're passing in just ways to identify and pull information from a database, but with a create category, you're tossing a whole entire object into the database, and Entity Framework's going to take care of that for you. So key point, make sure you are cognizant and you're kind of aware of that. With read, when you're just pulling data, most of the time you're not going to be throwing in like whole entire objects and doing what you're doing when you're trying to create data. So key point, keep a eye on that. So then we're going to go save. Then of course, also I'm assuming you have a little bit of, not an incredible amount of knowledge, but I'm assuming you have like a little bit of knowledge, so that I'm not going to be explaining like what an interface is. You're going to kind of have to need to know what all of that, how to implement an interface, but nothing crazy. So we've implemented a save and we've implemented a create category first. So here's kind of what you need to know about creations in Entity Framework. So you need to know that there is something called a change tracker. Whenever you are manipulating, or whenever you are creating objects, or whenever you are about to create an object, what you are going to do is you're going to do this, and it's very simple. But you need to know what's going on underneath the hood. So we're going context.add. Then we're going to go in here. We're going to have our category, and this is what's going to start tracking your entity. So whenever you pass in your category, you don't have to do really anything else, and Entity Framework's literally just going to put it in the database for you, and it's going to do all that work. But you need to realize that once this add thing is or this add method is called, it's going to start change tracking, and change tracking is going to have different states. It's going to start tracking, is this adding, is this updating, is this modifying, and those are the terms. Yeah, adding, updating, modifying, and they can be connected or disconnected. 99% of the time, your state is going to be connected, or it's going to be connected. Disconnected is actually the far more uncommon one. And if you ever see stuff like this, if you ever see entity, if you're ever at work and you ever see something like this, you don't need to know a lot about disconnected state. Not, like I said, 99% of the time it's going to be connected state. But if you ever see something like that, you are using a disconnected state, and you need to be cognizant of that. And I probably wouldn't even learn it until you actually actually encounter disconnected state, because it's really not that much different. But if you ever just see that, just say, oh, okay, that's I think I know what that is. I remember Teddy's video. He talked about disconnected state, and just go Google disconnected state, because it's really not that important, but I would just be able to spot it. So what is actually, why is it being tracked? Why do we even have these things? And it's because you have to be very explicit. There's a lot that could go on in between the actual save and when you are actually doing your change tracking. So you could be, there's all different types of properties and methods to where you can manipulate this entity right here. And you do that because in programming, it's best to be explicit. You don't want a lot of magic going on, and that's the reason why Entity Framework has that, is so that you're not totally abstracted away. Because if you're doing a lot of this, you don't want to be totally abstracted away, and it's going to be communicating with our database context. So if you're not within a database context, that's when entity state is going to be disconnected. But for the 100% of the time, or near 100% of the time, you're going to be the database context, or your data context is what's going to be doing all of the tracking, and that's pretty much all you're going to be needing to know. And it's not going to be any different from updating as well too. But we also need to go down here. So let's go return save, and we actually need to fill out our save part. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete all this because we don't need that here. And we're going to go down here, down to our save method, and actually implement the save. So another important point before we go on is that it's best to abstract all of this, because it's easier. And let me see here. Before I start talking, I'm going to finish this right here. It's easier, and save changes returns a bool, or an integer. So if you just called, like, you could just go up here and do this. Like, you could just go up here and just, put save changes down there like that, and that will definitely work. And we have save changes because once you call save changes, that's when Entity Framework is going to take all of what you just gave it in the context, and it's going to convert it into SQL and send it to the database. And that's what's going to, so whenever you see the word save changes, just think, oh, that's when the actual SQL is going to be generated and sent to the database and the actual entity. Because think about it like this, it's not actually physically putting that data in there. Like, that doesn't make sense. What it's really doing is it's turning it into SQL and creating it in the database. Otherwise, you would have to do that, or you would have to write your own SQL queries, and that's very cumbersome, and that would get annoying after time. And that's what people probably had to do back in the day, but I haven't been programming long enough for that to have occurred, so I don't really know anything about that. If you do know anything about that, leave a link down, or leave a comment down in the description, because I'm sure people would like to hear a cool story like that. So we're gonna go. We've already got our create finished. So we've got the category repository, and we've got that. So that's very easy. The more difficult part is going to be actually making our category controller, and that's kind of like the trade-off. In Git methods, the repository is usually more complicated, but with creates and updates and deletes, most of the more complicated logic is going to be in the controller. And even though you try to abstract it away, it's just going to be a lot more, it's usually just on average more complicated. So here we're going to start doing, since we don't have an actual controller that we could copy, we're going to have to just type all this one out. But after we get this one typed out, we can copy and paste it into other we can copy and paste it into other controllers. So we're going to do producer's response type. This is just going to make our API look a little bit more polished. You probably don't even need that. If you don't want to put it in there, you really don't even have to. Okay, then we're going to go create category. And we're going to do a from body, and you probably haven't seen this. What this is going to mean is that, hold on, let me see if I have what from body means. And this is the actual built out, the whole entire API that I've built out is that it's going to take in data from this. So there's different ways that you can receive data. And one of the ways that you can receive data is in the query string. So you could have like this, or you could have, and sometimes you see stuff like this, there's query strings and then there's query params. So you could have like Pokey ID appear and it would have like a 2. And there's all different ways that you can pass data to the server. But when you have from body, it's kind of just the way that it means. It's coming from the body. So going in here, and let me see. We can just put our category DTO up here. Category DTO as our type. Category, and we're just going to call this category create. We're going to go down here. So if category create is equal to null, we're going to return a bad request. So if the user sends nothing, we're just going to do a little bit of validation and we're going to return bad request. So next thing, we need to check if there's actually an instance, because if you're creating data, you want to make sure that it's not conflicting with anything and that there's not actual other categories in there that we've already created, because that will be very bad and you'll get what's called a server error. And another one key point is that you never want, like, you do not want server errors to be shown to a user. That's like blasphemy. And so every once in a while you will see, maybe you've been to a website and you just got some kind of like crazy error, and it occurs very rarely, but if that's if your code shows a server error in a production environment to a user, you're going to be getting calls and not good calls. You're going to be getting calls from people and you are going to be on the hook. So always make sure that you're not exposing server errors to users, otherwise could end badly. So let's see here. Okay, great. And I'm just going to bring this over here so that we can see it. So if category is not equal to null, we are going to return model state dot add model error category already exists. Then we are going to return status code 422. Then we're going to go ahead and toss in our model state, and that is going to handle if we have, or if we're trying to insert when there's already one in there, which you do not want to do. So it's valid. And these are good. These aren't good errors, but if you handle the error beforehand, that is obviously any program is going to have errors, but the key point is you want to anticipate the error beforehand. Otherwise, like I said, you'll get a server error, and server errors could have other side effects too, like possibly causing weird side effects with the app and on, but that's kind of like worst case scenario. Most of the time it's just going to be a server error, and you'll get yelled at for like a little bit, but it won't, nobody's going to fire you. So category repository, then Then we're going to go create category. So this is what's going to pass to our repository that we just made. Then we're going to go model state is equal to add model error. And you may be wondering why is there 2 parens there? That's because model state is a key value pair. So you have a key and then you have a value, but we don't have a key in this one, so something went wrong while saving. Great. So got our create category, and if that doesn't work, we're going to return a status code of 500 and model state. And if everything worked out and it did not return a bad or a model state error, we're going to return successfully created. And this is one we want to test beforehand. We want to test these with the gets. We could get away with testing them after we get done, but with these creates, they're pretty complicated, so you probably want to test these beforehand and make sure. So with the post, we don't really need the ID. Then we can just go in here and we'll type in category and psychic. Let's see what we got. Category. Let me see here. Oh, this is because we have to map it the other way. So with AutoMapper, you have this. So with AutoMapper, you're mapping the model to the DTO, but you also need to create a map for mapping the other way. So it's kind of like a two-way, it's like a two-way relationship. Just like that. So go down here. You could add in the ID if you want to, but I'm just gonna let Entity Framework handle that. Great, so successfully created. So we've created our post. Now let's move on to country. So we're gonna go country, and we could literally just copy this and go into our iCountry repository. Do that, change them to country, so create country. Then we're gonna save, make sure that you name this one, make sure you get all of them. Then we will go into not our controller, but we'll go into our repository. And we're gonna get a red squiggly. Implement that interface. Context.add. Once again, very easy. A lot of stuff going on underneath the hood, but pretty easy. Return, save, and we're going to go down here. We're going to do the exact same thing. So var saved is equal to context, and we're going to do our context.save changes, which is Entity Framework, by the way. If it's less than or equal to 0, true, false. And that's that. So then we can go into our control. Let's see, we can go into our category controller and just copy it and then paste it into our country controller. So we'll go down here, create, country. We have our country DTO. We have country create. Country create. We have country repository. And we can just dot it and it will, the IntelliSense will let us know. So we're just going to get let me see here. Okay, then we're just going to get all of these countries. We're going to change this to countries or country. And we're going to filter it. We're going to search all of the countries. Just going to paste that. Paste that. Capitalize that. Country. Paste that there. Paste that. Create country. Go country map. Sweet. And then just like the other one, we're going to have to go into our mapping profiles and create the map for the other way. Country DTO, country. Let me just go back and double check. Okay, let's test this thing. Sweet. You can take out that ID if you want. And we're going to the country of, we'll just do United States. I can't think of I don't play Pokemon enough to know like all the countries. Okay, great. That one worked as well too. So now we need to move on to the owner. And let's see here. What was that? Okay, I don't know what that was. I think it's just like a random error. Go in here and we will just go down to our owner repository. We're going to change that one. So owner, Then we are going to go to our owner repository, implement that, create owner. So let's go ahead and let's implement our save first, and we can just copy from here, paste it into there. We can go back to the other one, paste it into here. So owner. Then do the same exact thing. We're just going to copy all of this, put it into the owner controller. So create owner. Then we're going to have owner DTO, owner create. Just take that. I don't know why I deleted that. Okay, we're getting. Okay, so copy. Then we're gonna paste. Paste. Owners. So what's happening is it's sorting through all of those, and owners actually have a different DTO. So let me see. Let's use the IntelliSense to figure out which one it is. And because usually people search by last name, we'll search it by the last name. Trim it. Then we'll check the owners is equal to null. Great. Say owner already exists. Go in here. Change that to owner. And the reason why we have this map here is because you change it. What AutoMapper is also good at is changing types. So if you have another type and you need to quickly convert it to a different type, and you just need it to convert it in between two different objects, AutoMapper is also really good for that as well too. And that, I hope that's me. Yeah, I think it gets complicated, and the Pokemon's going to be it's going to be a more confusing one. But these, the category, the country, and the owner are relatively simple because they don't have any many-to-many relationships. When you get one with a many-to-many relationship, it gets really complicated. And we will experience that firsthand. So we'll just go in here. We can just leave the string. We'll say Jim. The Jim is called string. The last name is string. The first name is string. This is very common in production environments too. You're just inputting, you could put like test here or something. Let me make sure that that is right. You have to be very specific about the type of JSON that you're passing in there. So yeah, great. And I forgot it again. I can't believe I forgot. So we need to go back and we need to adjust our mapping profile. So we're going to have create map owner DTO. Then we're going to map it over to owner. var saved. An error occurred while saving. Okay, owner, foreign keys. Oh, okay. So there is, what happened is that there is a relationship. So this is an important, this will be a good way to actually troubleshoot a actual error. So I'm not even going to stop the stream. I'm just going to show you guys what happened. So if you saw that error, I don't know if it'll still have it. An error occurred while saving the entity changes. See the inner exception for details. The insert statement conflicted with foreign key restraint owner's country. So look right here. This is the actual table that we're working on. This is the country. So if you look on this part, basically what it's saying is that when you try to insert this entity, there's another relationship and you don't have that relationship. So you need to put that relationship in here or else you're not going to be able to save it. So the relationship that we have is a country has different owners. And when I did the owner controller, I didn't actually insert the owners. So what we need to do is go in here. So we're going to go owner map. So we've already mapped it over. And you could do this at other parts, but really what you need to do is you're going to have to go to country and you're going to have to go to, we're going to have to bring in the country repository because we're going to have to go get the country. So just think about it like this. Let me pull up SQL. Let me pull out the entity framework relationship that we have, because this is going to be really difficult to visualize. So within our owner, we have this country. We don't have to insert the Pokemon owners, but we have to insert this country. Whenever we're adding, if you are adding something and you don't insert it, it's going to give you an error. And if you are going to add an owner, you're going to have to add this country right here, or otherwise you're going to get that error like I said. So hopefully, in order to be able to go get that actual country, you could, in theory, just literally send all of the data up with it, which wouldn't make sense, but that's kind of the idea. Like, it's basically saying, look, I don't care where you get that data, but you have to get that data in here because I don't know. Like, I can't say, because I can't save this. And it really, at the heart of it, is an issue with the SQL database. So when Entity Framework executes all that SQL, that's the database is the one that's actually giving errors. Entity Framework doesn't really care. Entity Framework's just saying, hey, like, the database just told me, like, you can't do that, so you need to figure it out. Hopefully I didn't confuse you. Okay, so now we have to bring in the country repository because, like I said, we have to bring in that country entity. And you could insert it just by the ID, or you could do like I'm doing and inserting the whole entire entity. So let's see. So underscore country repository. Underscore country repository dot. And we're going to say get country. Okay, and another good way that we could do this without really having to worry about, like, we could just say from query, and we can get it from the queries. We can get the ID from the query string so that we can actually go get the data from the database. Otherwise, how are you going to get the data if you don't have an ID? Think about it like that. Like, how, just if you get a weird error like that, just don't like really start freaking out and be like, oh my god, there's an error. Just be like, okay, what data do I need and how am I going to get that data in there? And that's really the heart of the issue. Like if you just get something like that, and then we're going to take this country ID and then we're going to pass it down into the get country. And I just showed you how to diagnose a very relatively complicated entity framework issue that you will run into this in real life. So it's kind of, I guess it's kind of good. Like it kind of sucks that, you know, that it happened on the stream like that, but it's good that you actually will get to see how to actually diagnose these things, because you got Stack Overflow for a question like that and they're going to be like, you're an idiot or something like that. Okay, I'm getting a little carried away. Okay, so now we need to do. Actually, I'm just gonna stop it at that, and I'm gonna bust this into actually 2 parts because this is already a 36-minute video. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to stick around for the next one because I'm gonna be finishing this out. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, thank you for watching.